Real women don't live off handouts, my mother-in-law spat, her manicured hand slicing the air as if it were truth carved in stone. The living room fell silent. Even the clock seemed to stop ticking. I watched as she tore the white envelope in half, the one I had waited 3 months for, my disability documents fluttering like broken wings to the floor. My husband stood beside her, eyes down, saying nothing. Hi everyone. My name is Alara Quinn and I was 27 when silence became my enemy. I had survived the accident. I had learned to walk again, not gracefully, not fully, but enough to get to the door every morning to collect the mail. Those papers meant I could finally stop begging for shifts I couldn't physically handle. They were proof that what happened to me was real. But to her it was weakness. She smiled, that condescending tilt of her chin, and said, "You should be grateful you even have a husband, considering." Her voice trailed off, but her eyes finished the sentence. "Considering your limp. Considering your damaged goods." I felt the heat rising behind my eyes, but I didn't move. The sound of tearing paper filled the room again. Slow, deliberate, cruel. Each rip sounded like the undoing of my dignity. And then, a sound from behind her. A quiet throat clearing. The postman was still standing at the open door, holding his delivery tablet. His voice cut through the air, calm but sharp. "Ma'am, that's a federal document. Destroying it is a federal crime." Her hand froze mid-tear. My husband's head snapped up. For the first time that morning, I saw fear flicker across her perfect face. I said nothing, just looked at her, then at the paper pieces falling from her fingers like snow. Because for once I didn't have to defend myself. Someone else did. And that was the moment everything started to shift. If this ever happened to you, say, same in the comments. No one moved. The air thickened as if the house itself was holding its breath. My mother-in-law's lips parted, ready to argue, but her voice faltered. The postman stood firm, a quiet authority in his navy jacket and badge. "I'll need your name," he said flatly, pulling out his phone. "Tampering with official mail isn't something you want to joke about." Her hand trembled. It was just a misunderstanding," she stammered. But the damage was done, not just to the letter but to every ounce of respect I had left for the people in that room. My husband finally spoke, his voice small. "Mom, maybe you should." She cut him off. "Oh, stop it. It's just paper. Just paper." The words sank deep, carving something cold into my chest. I bent slowly, my leg throbbing, and picked up a torn piece, my name barely visible on it. The postman looked at me gently. "You'll need to report this, ma'am. I'll file my part." Then he tipped his hat and left, his footsteps echoing down the porch. No one spoke after that. The silence was louder than her insult. I walked to my room, closed the door, and let out the first breath I'd been holding for months. That's when I decided, if they thought I was weak, I'd show them the kind of strength they'd never understand. That night the house smelled of guilt, thick like the overcooked roast she left untouched. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ripped fragments I'd taped together. My name. My signature. The approval stamp that took months to fight for. All shredded because my pain didn't look respectable enough. My husband knocked softly. "Alara, she didn't mean it like that." I turned my head slowly. "She tore up my lifeline, Noah." "Tell me, how exactly did she mean it?" He looked away. "I'll fix it." I almost laughed. "You won't even stand up to her. How will you fix this?" He left without a word, and for the first time in our marriage I felt truly alone. But loneliness has a strange gift. Clarity. I searched my phone for the post office's number, explained what happened, and the man on the line said, "We already documented it, ma'am. The carrier filed a report. You'll receive a replacement within days, and the inspector will follow up." For the first time someone believed me without question. The next morning I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched as my mother-in-law watered her roses like nothing had happened. Her perfect world was still intact. Mine was quietly rearranging itself, piece by piece, stronger this time. Because revenge doesn't always start with anger. Sometimes it begins with a calm sip of coffee and a silent plan. 2 days later, the sound of a firm knock echoed through the hallway. My mother-in-law opened the door, still in her robe, annoyance already on her face. "Mrs. Quinn?" the woman at the door asked, flipping open a badge. "Postal Inspection Service. I need to speak to everyone who was present during the mail destruction incident." Her confidence faltered instantly. "There's no need for But the inspector stepped inside anyway, crisp and professional. "Tampering with federal mail carries serious penalties, ma'am. We just need your statements." I stayed seated on the couch, my cane resting beside me. For once I didn't shrink back. My husband hovered by the kitchen doorway, pale. The inspector glanced at me. "You're the recipient?" "Yes." My voice was calm, measured. "I didn't ask for trouble. I just wanted my paperwork." She nodded. "You did the right thing reporting it." My mother-in-law started babbling about family misunderstandings, overreactions, emotions. The inspector scribbled notes quietly. Then she looked up. "Intentional destruction of federal documents isn't an emotional matter, ma'am." The room fell silent again, the kind of silence that reveals everything people try to hide. When the inspector left, she handed me her card and said, "Keep this safe. We'll be following up." My mother-in-law slammed her door upstairs. My husband followed her. But I stayed downstairs holding that card, feeling something new rise in my chest. Not anger. Not revenge. Power. The next morning I woke before dawn. The house was still except for the faint hum of the fridge and the ache in my leg. I made coffee, opened my laptop and stared at my savings account. There wasn't much, but it was mine. That day I decided to move quietly. While they whispered upstairs about how humiliated they were, I started applying for remote jobs. Small administrative work, translation gigs, anything that didn't require me to stand too long. Every rejection stung less than the silence my husband gave me. Then one afternoon an email arrived. "Congratulations, Alara. We'd love to have you on board." It wasn't much, but it was freedom in pixels. When I told Noah, he barely looked up from his phone. "That's good," he muttered. His mother's voice floated from the kitchen. "She's just trying to prove a point." He was right, I was. Each morning after that I worked quietly, headphones in, blocking out their voices. Each night I watched my balance grow bit by bit. Weeks passed before the inspector called again, her tone formal but kind. "Ma'am, the investigation concluded. Official warning issued. She'll have it on record." I thanked her, then hung up and smiled for the first time in months. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about balance, the kind that can't be taken, torn, or thrown away. It started subtly, the shift. The neighbors stopped waving at my mother-in-law first. Her bridge club forgot to invite her for the monthly meet. Even her friends from church suddenly became too busy. Word spreads fast in small towns, especially when the post office has questions for you. At breakfast she sat stiffly, pretending everything was normal. "They're jealous," she muttered. Noah said nothing. He just stared at his coffee like it held an answer he didn't want to say out loud. Meanwhile my phone kept lighting up. Clients praising my work. Payments coming in. My voice began returning, not loud but steady. One evening the mail truck stopped again. A thick envelope with my name on it. Inside, the reissued disability documents and a note. "Filed, processed, approved." My hands trembled as I read it. I'd won the fight she tried to erase. When I placed the letter on the counter, she saw it. Her face drained of color. "I thought you said they wouldn't," she whispered. "They did," I replied softly. "Because truth doesn't tear as easily as paper." She stormed off, muttering about ungratefulness. But I caught Noah's eyes, guilt swimming where love used to be. He opened his mouth, closed it, then looked away. For the first time I didn't chase after understanding. Some silences don't need filling. Some simply confirm what's already over. The morning I decided to leave, the sun rose slow and gold, spilling through the curtains like quiet forgiveness. I brewed one last cup of coffee, the same way I had every day for years. 1 sugar, no milk. The mug felt heavier than usual, maybe because it was the last time I'd hold it in that house. Downstairs I could hear them arguing again. Her voice sharp as always. "You made her soft, Noah. You ruined her." And his, low and tired, "No, Mom, she just stopped letting us." For once I didn't flinch. I placed the mug in the sink, picked up my cane and walked to the living room. Both of them froze when they saw the packed duffel at my feet. "I'm moving out," I said calmly. "The new job covers rent." My mother-in-law scoffed. "And where will you go?" "Anywhere that doesn't confuse cruelty with care." I handed Noah a small envelope. Inside was a note. "When you're ready to stand for something, you'll know where to find me." No dramatic goodbye. No tears. Just the sound of my steps on the wooden floor. Uneven, imperfect, but mine. As I reached the door, I paused and looked back once. Her roses were wilting in their perfect vases. There's poetry in decay, especially when it's earned. The apartment I moved into wasn't fancy. One bedroom, cracked walls, and a view of a parking lot. But to me it looked like peace. I filled it with small things. Sunlight, quiet mornings, and work that didn't depend on anyone's permission. Each day my limp grew steadier, my steps more confident. Weeks later a letter arrived. From the Postal Inspection Service. Case closed, violation confirmed. Attached was a short note handwritten by the inspector herself. Some people learn through fines. Others through loss. I folded it carefully and placed it next to the reissued disability papers. Both symbols of everything I'd rebuilt from nothing. That night I brewed tea and sat by the window watching the city lights blur. I thought of Noah, of the house where silence screamed louder than words, and of the woman who mistook cruelty for strength. I didn't hate them. I didn't need to. Their punishment was simple. They had to live with who they were. My revenge was quieter, cleaner, and permanent. When I finally closed my eyes, I realized the truth. I didn't need anyone to hand me power. I had it all along. I just needed to stop apologizing for using it. Outside, a car door shut softly, like the final punctuation to a story that no longer belonged to them.